Welcome to the show. It is your girl Sarah right here on the Sunrise. Now, I'm very, very excited to be here because I do have a lot of fun and interesting content to be sharing with you. So make sure you stay tuned, okay? And like I said, it is a beautiful Tuesday morning. That means it's just 6 a.m., right? That means there are so many more hours to make this day into a much more productive, into a much more better day. So make sure you stay tuned because on the Sunrise with me, Sarah, I will give you tips to make sure you have an amazing day. I will give you tips to make sure that you have an absolutely amazing time. So that is because that's what we do right here on the Sunrise. So make sure you stay tuned because I'm here to make your day so much better with so many tips for you on mental health, on physical health, on being productive and actually trying to make the best of your day. So make sure you stay tuned because I will be sharing so many different things with you. And also, I want to very quickly remind you that you can, in fact, get in touch with us. All you need to do is just text me on 078 because you can share your thoughts, you can share your opinions with me, and that means that you can get in touch with me and share whatever it is that you want to share with that audience. You can do that as well, so make sure you do that. And also want to very quickly remind you that you can in fact go follow us on our socials, which is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. That way you can always be a part of this conversation. You can always make sure that you are a part of this conversation, and you can also make sure that you let everyone know that you are part of this conversation as well. Okay, so make sure you tell your friends, your family, because right here on Relax Radio, we do have a lot of interesting and fun content. So make sure you stay tuned because I would absolutely love to hear everything that you have to say. So make sure you stay tuned. But and also, I want to very quickly remind you that you can, in fact, download our app, which is available on both the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. That means you can listen in from either your iOS device or your Android device. And that also means that you can be a part of this conversation at any time of the day from anywhere in the world. So let's get into this conversation that we're going to be having today because it is an important conversation because a lot of us have been in this place. We've gone through these skin conditions and whatnot, and that is why we are having this absolutely amazing conversation because it's fun, but also because it's going to help you, help me, help all of us actually to come to terms with ourselves. It's actually going to help us to be much, much more comfortable in our skin because that's what we're going to be talking about. And if you haven't guessed already, we're talking about acne and acne positivity. So, I felt like I really had to tell you about this. I felt like, I had to share my thoughts and opinions with you on this because this is a problem that we've all gone through, right? At some part of our life, we've all been through this, and we know that it can get very, it can get very, things can get very hard. Your life can get very hard. So because of that, we know, we've all been through that bullying phase as well, especially if you had acne and people just bullied you. Well, you've been through that as well, so that is why we're having this conversation, because it's important to share your thoughts. It's important to share your ideas with regard to acne and acne positivity. So, to actually get into this conversation, I want to tell you about a few names that are there for acne. So, it's called pimples, there are spots, it's called plukes, it's called pustules, boils, eruptions, carbuncles, zits, whatever it is. There are dozens of different names or different words for, for acne. Now, for example, if there are multiple names for snow, there must be at least as many in the school bully's armory for spots, or to, give the condition its mercilessly judgment medical name, acne vulgaris, right? Um, so, acne is something that a lot of people go through. And the thing is, even though, it is something that a lot of people go through, even though skin does break out like that sometimes, a lot of people actually view people with acne as dirty or unhealthy or unhygienic. Right. And we will be talking about why exactly people view people with acne like that. But importantly, we will also be talking about why kids are bullied for having acne, why kids are, so ruthless and so relentless when it comes to bullying other people and making people feel inferior or making people feel so bad about themselves. Because bullying is something that happens all over the United Kingdom, and it happens so often. It happens almost every day. So it is a huge problem. And there are various reasons as to why kids get bullied. There are adults who get bullied as well, and it is in fact a serious problem. So we will be actually talking about all of that, but I also want to very quickly remind you that I want to hear your opinion on this as well. If you have been through this situation, if you have been bullied because of acne, if you currently have acne and you're struggling to actually share your thoughts and opinions, or you're finding it very hard to share your experience, well, now might be the best time, because you can actually be a part of this show. You can text me and tell me your thoughts, your experiences that you want to share with me with regard to acne, or even if there's any other experience that you want to share, make sure you do that, because I want to hear about all of it. Relax Radio is all about you. It's about your opinion, your perspective, and everything you want to hear. So make sure you do that, because I am so, so excited, and I actually absolutely want to know what you want to say as well. So make sure you do that. Now, like I said, acne is something a lot of people go through. It's not just a specific set of people. It's not just people with, only with like certain people only with hormonal imbalances, but a lot of people actually go through it. And the thing is, for most of us, the lucky ones, if I put it that way, most of us, our acne actually disappears once we become adults. So a lot of us actually have that advantage, or that's just how our skin is. But some other people actually live with acne past the adult age. So we will be talking about all of these people. We will be talking about what exactly acne is, why it's caused, and all of the do's and don'ts of acne. So make sure you stay tuned. But to actually talk a bit about being bullied in school for acne, it can actually cause a lot of mental health issues as well, because bullying does in fact have lasting effects, and it's very important to consider how acne is also something that people are bullied for. Because here's the thing, I have never understood, and I still don't understand, is why people would go out of their way just to make someone else feel uncomfortable. Why would you go out of your way to make someone else feel inferior about themselves? Like, what joy does that give you? And that's basically what bullying is, right? I mean, you bully people, you go out of the way to make people feel uncomfortable, because it brings some form of, comfort to you. It makes you feel fulfilled. Does it make you feel assertive? Is that why people do it? Because I've never ever understood why people want to bully other people so much, especially when they know that bullying actually has a lot of detrimental effects, but people still keep doing it. And I've never understood why people actually don't try putting themselves in those shoes, the shoes of the people who they're bullying, and try to understand how traumatizing it is to be bullied for something that you have absolutely no control over. Things like your acne, you don't have control over your acne, right? So obviously it's important for you to understand, it's important for you to realize, if you are a bully, that you're probably not the you're not like the best person out there, and you're not doing the nicest thing in the world. No one wants to hear things about themselves that they don't like, but you don't. And the thing is, you have a choice, right? You have a choice to say it or not, but regardless, you still say it and hurt people. So if you're a bully, really think twice about what you say, because it can hurt people, and it can damage a lot of people's mental health as well. Now, getting back into how a lot of people are bullied because of acne, the lifelong impact of acne is something the medical profession is finally taking seriously. And I know it's been a while, but finally they've made some progress. And the fact of the matter is that at the end of June, the end of June, the National Institute of Health and Care Excellence recommended mental health support for those who have been affected by their acne. And what they stated was that acne vulgaris and the scarring it leaves can actually have a strong psychological effect, potentially causing anxiety or depression. And what's alarming to me is how long it has taken for them to recognize this condition as something serious, because a lot of children have suffered because of it. And acne is common, very, very common in teenagers and younger adults, right? And because they know that a lot of people have suffered from it, a lot of people have had, they do have existing mental health conditions because of all that bullying. It just amazes me how we took so long to finally recognize this as a serious medical condition. Now, acne is in fact very, very common in teenagers and young adults, and about 95% of people who are aged 11 to 30 are infected by, in fact, affected by acne to some extent. Okay, now acne is also most common in girls from the ages of 14 to 17, and in boys from the ages of 16 to 19. And obviously, the reason for that is because there is a lot of hormonal changes that happen in your body during that time. And when those hormonal changes happen, obviously your skin starts breaking out. And I will actually get into the exact science of it. But obviously, you've got to stay tuned for that because, the best is always for the last, right? So make sure you stay tuned because I will be getting into the science of acne. I will be getting into, everything that is there with regard to acne and everything that is there with regard to making sure you can control your acne and whatnot. And that is definitely going to help you as well. Now, a lot of people actually have acne on and off for several years before the symptoms start to improve as they get older. And acne often disappears when a person is in their mid 20s. So, like I said, the older you grow, as soon as you become, not necessarily as soon as you become an adult, but rather when you are an adult, when you are growing and whatnot, the acne tends to disappear because all the hormones in your skin, all the hormones in your body do in fact start settling down and they start, not becoming normal and whatnot. And in some cases, however, in some cases though, acne can continue into adult life, and about 3% of adults actually have acne over the age of 35. So, if you're one of those adults who have a lot of acne, if your acne from when you were younger has carried on to when you were an adult, please do share your story with me. It would also be very helpful for everyone else who's listening in as well, so they will understand, and then they will rather learn to be comfortable in their own skin. So that is what Relax Radio is all about, right? It's about positivity. It's about making yourself feel comfortable in your own skin. But right now, let's actually head into a small break because I do have a lot to be talking to you about acne positivity, and everything, the do's and the don'ts and everything. So make sure you stay tuned.
And it gives them something to look at, and it makes them laugh. It makes them laugh. So that's why I do it.
Oh, and it could be a really good pickup line as well. Ladies who ask, "Hey, excuse me, so why are you wearing something so colorful?" I mean, hey, you can always have something up on your sleeve. I mean, Got me thinking. You want to stand out. Why do you want to stand out though so much, especially with these kind of shirts when you're writing? There must be a purpose behind it, right?
Well, when you say a purpose, Nick, what I do, I wear the shirts, mainly one because they're nice and bright, so they make me visible, especially if I'm riding on the road.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, that's very important, right? Because
Very
you want
important,
cars. Yeah.
very important. And also, like people see me in like calves, and perhaps I shouldn't be saying this on here, I suppose, but in the bar afterwards.
All right.
And it gives them something to look at, and it makes them laugh. It makes them laugh. So that's why I do it.
Oh, and it could be a really good pickup line as well. Ladies who ask, "Hey, excuse me, so why are you wearing something so colorful?" I mean, hey, you can always have something up on your sleeve. I mean, you look like a guy who would do.
You know me too well. You know me too well, Nick.
Welcome to the show. It is your girl Sarah right here on the Sunrise. Now you're tuned into Relax Radio, and we're talking about acne positivity because it's something that a lot of us have gone through as well, right? I mean, we've all been there. We've all been in that instance where we felt very insecure about ourselves because of acne, and a whole multitude of other skin issues as well. And we've definitely been in that place where we all got bullied for having acne, and we all got called names or whatnot for having acne as well. So that is why this conversation is important, because we're talking about why this is considered such a bad thing, and how there's in fact something called the acne positivity movement right now that is in fact helping all these children, even adults who have acne, where they're making these people feel much much more comfortable in their skin, and they definitely are getting more used to being in the fact that or rather they're getting used to the fact that it's completely normal to have acne, and those things happen to everyone, right? And that is why this is an important conversation, because we're sharing all of these thoughts and opinions about acne and why exactly it is important in this day and age. You're tuned into the Sunrise with me, Sarah, and I will be keeping you company all the way until 9 a.m. So make sure you stay tuned, because I do have a lot of informative things to share with you as well, things that will definitely help you as well. And we're talking about bullying, we're talking about acne, we're talking about everything that a lot of us go through, or rather went through when we were children, and we still go through as well, because that is a very very important thing we need to talk about, because regardless of how many rules and laws are out there to actually stop bullying, it still happens, and people always try to put other people down and make them feel inferior. So we will be talking about all of that. But if you want to listen into more conversation like this, make sure you download our app, which is available on both the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. That means you can listen in from your iOS device and even your Android device. And that also means that you can join this conversation at any time of the day from anywhere in the world. So that's absolutely amazing, because we're all stuck in lockdown at the moment. So we might as well, engage in some conversation, be a part of conversation, and share your thoughts and opinions and experiences with me on 07852473473. And also, if you have any, or if you're very interested in the content that we share, that we talk about, make sure to follow us on our socials, which is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And make sure you follow them and you like them as well, because we do have a lot of interesting and fun content made especially for you. So make sure you do that. But right now, let's actually move on to talk about what exactly acne is. Now, we throw this word around a lot, but some of us aren't actually aware of what acne is. Now, acne is in fact a common skin condition that affects most people at some point. And it's not just you, or it's not just me. A lot of us are affected by acne at a certain age. But what's different is that not a lot of us experience it in a way that it gets really, really bad, right? Not a lot of us have exacerbated acne, and acne that can sometimes be cystic. So obviously, in terms of the experiences, in terms of the way we look at experiences of people with acne, there are different experiences. And obviously, because we're different human beings and we feel things differently, it means that my experience of acne will be very different to your experience of acne. And the number one rule when you are listening to someone talk about their problems, listening to them talk about things they're insecure about, is to make sure you don't compare the situations, because that is not going to help anyone. You don't want, especially if you're opening up, you don't want someone to tell you, oh, like whatever you're going through isn't even that bad. Like, I've definitely been through worse. Because it's not a competition. It's not about who's been through the most amount of pain, or who's gone through the most amount of bullying. It's not a competition. It's a healthy space for everyone to open up and talk about their problems. So if you are listening to someone talk about their experience about acne, just make sure that you do not compare it, and that you don't try to say, oh, but like other people have got it worse, because that definitely doesn't help. But to actually talk about acne, acne is, in fact, like I said, a common skin condition that affects a lot of people at some point. And it causes spots, it causes oily skin, and sometimes skin that's even hot or painful to touch. And the symptoms of acne are actually, or there are many symptoms of acne, but acne most commonly develops on the face, which basically affects almost everyone with acne, and back. This affects more than half of the people with acne, and the chest, where this affects about 15% of people with acne. Okay, so basically acne can be seen in your back, in your face, and your chest. And if we're talking about the type of spots, if we're talking about the type of acne that appears on skin, there are different types of acne as well. Now, they have categorized this into six main types of spots caused by acne. So we will be looking at it all, one by one. Now, the first thing is something called blackheads. And blackheads are, in fact, small black or even yellowish bumps that develop on the skin, but they're not black because they're filled with dirt, okay? They're not, in fact, filled with dirt, but are black because the inner lining of the hair follicle, in fact, produces that color. Okay, and you know how when you have these blackheads, when you have these whiteheads and whatnot, what happens is one of your pores, the pores on your skin, actually, they get filled either with dirt, or there's an inflammation in those pores. That's basically how acne happens, right? So blackheads are quite similar, except it's not the dirt that makes it black, but it's in fact the inner lining of the hair follicle that makes it that color. And there's something else that's also called whiteheads. Okay, so whiteheads actually have a very similar appearance to blackheads, but they're in fact firmer, and they will not empty when you squeeze it. And another thing we all do is whenever we get acne, whenever we get like pimples and whatnot, we try to squeeze it, and that's in fact quite bad. And I know this sounds, I mean, I feel like I'm being such a hypocrite right now, because whenever I see people touching their pimples, I'm like, don't touch it, it's not good. But when I get pimples, I always touch it and I always break it. Like, I can be such a hypocrite sometimes, but I guess that's the thing. Sometimes it's very hard for you to take your own advice, right? So, but having said that, just try very hard not to touch your blackheads, your whiteheads, or even your pimples. Just don't touch it. And like I said, those whiteheads are in fact firm, and they will not empty when you squeeze them. There's something else called papules, which are basically these small red bumps that may feel tender or so. And they basically appear on your face if you have acne, or even your back and your chest if you have acne. And they're red, and they feel very so it's just a bump, and it's not necessarily, it doesn't get as bad as a pustule or even a nodule, right? So let's move on to the other type of spot, which is basically something called pustules, right? And they're quite similar to papules, but basically they have a white tip in the center, and they're caused by a buildup of pus. So basically, I that's the easiest way I can put it. It's basically red around, and in the middle there's like this white tip, and that is caused because of the pus that builds up inside that pustule, right? We also have something else called nodules, which are basically large hard lumps that actually build up beneath the surface of the skin, and they can be very, very painful. Okay, so this is when acne gets really really bad. If you have nodules or if you have cysts, then it does get very painful, and it also causes a lot of scarring on your skin as well. Now cysts are in fact the most severe type of spot that is caused by acne, because they're large pus filled lumps that look similar to boils, and they also carry the greatest risk of permanent scarring. So if you do have cystic acne, well, chances are that it's probably going to have permanent scarring. But again, when it comes to skin, when it comes to different types of acne, it's different for everyone, right? Because sometimes you can have very very bad acne, but sometimes after a while, after your hormones and everything just start going back to balance and whatnot, it can actually go back to normal, and you can go back to having good skin. And that has happened to a lot of friends of mine as well. So what's important is just to be comfortable in your own skin. And I know it's easier said than done, and I know it's very very easy for me to just say, hey, be comfortable in your skin, like it's normal. But and I know it's easier said than done, but the thing is, it's also a process of self acceptance. It's a process of being confident in yourself and not letting what people say get to you, because there's so many weird and terrible people out there who are constantly saying things to put you down. So it's up to you to decide whether what people say will, whether you'll let it get to you, or whether you'll just let it not get to you. Because why should their opinion matter? They're just random people that you don't even know. So that again, that's just it. Basically, it's a process that you need to work on by yourself. Now, to actually talk about why people have acne, why do we have acne? Now, acne is in fact most commonly linked to the changes in hormone levels during puberty. But again, having said that, it also means that this can start at any age. Now, certain hormones actually cause the grease producing glands next to your hair follicles in the skin to, in fact, produce larger amounts of oil. And that is called abnormal sebum, which is when your glands produce larger amounts of oil. And this abnormal sebum actually changes the activity of a usually harmless skin bacterium called P. acnes, which becomes more aggressive, and it also causes more inflammation and pus. So because of those hormonal changes, because of all the imbalance in your hormones, it can in fact make this bacteria called P. acnes in fact very aggressive. So when it does get aggressive, it's going to start breaking out. Basically, it's going to start reacting, and that's why you end up with a lot of inflammation and a lot of acne in your skin. Now, the hormones that actually thicken the inner lining of the hair follicle, causes blockage of the pores. And when your pores are blocked and when your skin is reacting like crazy, your acne sort of starts getting really bad. Because the way for all that hormones and everything to, or rather for the bacteria to actually go out, it is through your pores. But when your hair follicles are blocking those pores, it gets hard for it to move, and that's why it gets collected, and in fact gets bigger, and it starts making your skin very it makes your skin very blotchy, and it makes you feel very uncomfortable in your skin. Now, one thing that a common misconception that exists for a lot of people is that they naturally assume that when you have acne, the best thing to do is to start cleaning the skin. Wash your skin like 10 times a day, or use different types of cleansers and moisturizers and whatnot. But the truth is, you actually shouldn't do that, because it can actually affect your acne even more. So, for example, if you constantly keep washing your skin, that can make your skin sore, and that can also take away some of those essential oils that are there in your skin, which is very very bad, and that might even exacerbate your acne. So there are different misconceptions and myths about it as well. And make sure you stay tuned, because we will be debunking all of that. We will be talking about all of that. But right now, we're going to head into a small break.
The valuations that you place on an asset are always behind you. It's always in hindsight. It's never in front of you. And that's one of the challenges, right? Because you're always valuing what happened yesterday. And what you need is what's going to happen tomorrow. What am I saving or investing for? Why am I doing it? When will I need the money? And how much money do I need? Yeah. So that's quite important because when you're looking at your net worth, you got to start with saying, well, what do I want my net worth to be, so that there's a goal, and then work backwards. How do I get there? And if I can start with £50 or $50 a week, if I save that every week, and you can go online and use calculators online. I don't have to teach you the maths behind it, but you can say, okay, and if I get a 3% return and I put this away for how long will it take to reach my goal? And that's called just this basic cash flow projection calculations. And it's what we use in financial planning all the time. What we say to clients is we say, okay, what is your goal? What is your objective? Where do you want to go to? And we discuss that in a lot of detail and over most of the meeting. And then the rest of it is saying, okay, in your exact circumstances, with your risk profile, with how you feel about investments and pensions and taxes and where you are and who you work with, and your education level or your lack of education or how involved you want to be. There's a lot of variables that we take into account. And then we say, okay, here's a plan. You start like this, that's great. And then we review it all the time. And we say, okay, we need to increase it, we're on track, we're not, this is what is happening. Because remember, when you're dealing with assets, the valuations that you place on an asset are always behind you. It's always in hindsight. It's never in front of you. And that's one of the challenges, right? Because you're always valuing what happened yesterday, and what you need is what's going to happen tomorrow. So that's a struggle. Yeah. So there are strategies everywhere from £50 a week up to £100 million, and they're different. Right? They range differently from everyone, but and from country to country, to be fair. Different countries have different tax laws, so different vehicles. But from your point of view, at the sort of normal end, I'm not going to call it the low end because I'm in that boat as well. It's as tax efficient as you can get it. That's where you start. You use all the tax efficiencies, and then you step up into different things.
Cycling in London is not child's play. How to be a better cyclist? Listen to my show, only on Relaks Radio. I'm Kevin. Join me every Thursday, 5 p.m. Look forward to seeing you.
Welcome back to the show. It is your girl Sarah right here on the Sunrise. Now I'm super excited to be here because I will be sharing a lot of things with you, a lot of information and a lot of tips on the do's and don'ts when it comes to acne. Okay, so make sure you stay tuned because I do have a lot of interesting things to be sharing with you, especially with regard to acne, especially with being comfortable in your skin and even self acceptance, which is something that a lot of us struggle with in this day and age. And you know what I was thinking? It actually makes sense as to why we struggle so much with self acceptance because we see all these perfect models, especially in movies, in fashion, everything that we like and we love. We see all these people who are considered perfect. They have beautiful skin, they have no acne, they have it's beautiful skin. Literally, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. And even when society preaches this ideal of what exactly perfection is, what exactly real beauty is, it does in fact get very hard for normal people to accept themselves, to be comfortable in their own skin. And we've seen this before as well, especially when it comes to the fashion industry. We've seen how the fashion industry has had an impact on children, on even adults, when it comes to eating disorders, especially things like anorexia or even bulimia, because of the way these models are portrayed, and because of the way we essentially view beauty as something that is supposed to be, as I said, beautiful, tall woman with brown hair and whatnot. So those these norms, these standards are in fact very, very detrimental to a lot of people out there. So like I said, when you're thinking about these things, you actually begin to see, you begin to realize that that a lot of it uh, is to do with the way people are portrayed in movies, right? How people are portrayed in media. So that is why we're talking about acne, because we live in a life where we're always on our phones, right? We're always on social media, we're always seeing pictures, we're always seeing, these movies and whatnot. So because we spend so much time on social media, it's important for us to talk about how social media also does play a role in, when it comes to, feeling comfortable in yourself, when it comes to self-acceptance and whatnot. So make sure you stay tuned, because we are talking about all of that right here on the Sunrise with your girl Sarah, right here on Relax Radio. Now, Relax Radio is all about the positives and no negatives, and that is what we aim to do through our shows as well. We always want to make sure that we give positive vibes, positive energy, and we also want to make sure that you always have the best of everything. So make sure you stay tuned, because I would absolutely love to share with you the best of everything, the best of mental health tips, of physical health tips, and whatnot. So make sure you tune into our show, and also make sure you get in touch with me. You can text me on 078 and that way you can in fact definitely be a part of this show and share your thoughts and experiences with me as well. So make sure you do that, because I do have a lot to be talking about with you. And also, having said that, I want to very quickly remind you that you can in fact go download our app, which is available on the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store, which means you can listen in from anywhere in the world at any time of the day. So make sure you stay tuned for that, because we do have a lot of interesting and fun content heading your way. But right now, let's actually get back into this conversation. Now, what are the other possible causes of acne? So acne is actually known to run in families. So if both your mother and your father had acne, it's very, very likely that you will have acne as well. Now, again, hormonal changes, such as those that occur during the menstrual cycle or even pregnancy, can also lead to episodes of acne in women. And, if you're a woman, if you obviously, you're friends with women as well, right? And you've seen how especially during menstruation or whatnot, they tend to have a lot of breakouts, they tend to get acne, they tend to get pimples. And again, all of that is because of the change in the hormones that happen during those periods. So when there are hormonal changes, that's when acne actually occurs. Now, there's actually no evidence that diet or even poor hygiene or sexual activity play a role in acne. Now, these are some of the myths that exist as well, or even misconceptions, because they tend to think that acne is developed because of poor hygiene, or acne is developed because of what you eat. But really, that's not actually true, because acne is solely based on hormonal changes. Now, Dr. Tanya Blaker, who's actually the president of the British Association of Dermatologists, said that acne does in fact have a particular effect on appearance. So, in addition to depression and anxiety, it can also be damaging to self image, and that also leads to isolation and sometimes severe mental health disorders. Now, we've seen this as well, right? And I think the best way for you to understand how much of an impact it has on people, when you're constantly calling out the fact, or you're constantly making them aware of the fact that they have acne, it's like, whenever someone points out things I don't like about myself, I'm immediately like, oh, did you think I didn't wake up in the morning and check myself out in the mirror? Because I definitely did. I don't need you pointing out the things I don't like about myself, because come on, even I'm having a hard time accepting it. And that's the thing, right? A lot of people just find it, they just want to point out things that they don't like about other people, or things that they consider are imperfections or flaws. Like, what is your problem? Can you go, I don't know, do something else with your life? Why do you always have to be so rude and put people down? So like I said, people are very very rude, they can be very very selfish as well. So when it comes to acne, when it comes to a lot of the insecurities that we deal with, it's always other people that point it out to you, like, thanks, I definitely wasn't aware of it because I definitely didn't look at my face in the morning in the mirror. So you know what I mean, right? It's very very annoying. And I actually, to understand the effects of acne, to understand what it's like to have acne or whatnot, the best example I can think of is this movie called Wonder. It's not exactly about acne, but the main character in the story actually has some facial disfiguration, has some issues with the way his face and his skin is. And because of that, his entire time, while he's a child, he gets bullied so much. People always say things about him. And I think that movie is absolutely, it's very eye opening. It actually makes you aware of how bad it is for a lot of children, for a lot of people out there as well. And that's just one instance, right? Because we don't really know how many instances, how many situations like that happen on a daily basis. And the thing is, that's just one instance of, and that's a very well done movie, I have to say that. And that's just one instance. So if you are trying to understand what it's like to live with acne, if you're trying to understand how people with acne feel like, then that is definitely a good place to start. It's called Wonder. Just make sure, when you have free time, that you check it out as well. So, like I said, because of all these different issues that people have, or these, the constant bullying that people have to go through, it can lead to a lot of damage when it comes to self image, and it can also lead to severe mental health disorders. Now, this is often also at a time in life when people may feel vulnerable. Now, the severity of acne is not always linked to the severity of mental health impact. So, it's important for us to understand that there is a better understanding that even mild acne can have severe effects on mental well being. It's just the fact that when people have acne, other people will definitely point it out and make fun of them, right? And that is why there is this link between your appearance, how you look, and your mental well-being. And you know what else I was thinking, because I saw this quote yesterday while I was scrolling my Instagram about how, or rather, it was about it. What matters is the beauty inside of you, and definitely not, your external appearance. But the truth of the matter is, no matter how much you say that, no matter how much you say, hey, it doesn't really matter if you're it doesn't really matter if you don't look that great on your outside. If you have a beautiful personality, then that's all that matters. Well, that's not actually true. That's just a myth. That's just our way of comforting ourselves and telling ourselves, you know what, everything is going to be okay. But the truth of the matter is, no one is going to accept you, no one is even going to like you, no one is going to look at you in a good way if you have, if you look different, if you're different. And that's just the truth of it. And I don't know why people try to sugarcoat it, because the truth is, no matter how many positivity quotes there are out there about external appearance doesn't matter, it really really does, because no one will love you if you don't look good, right? No one really does that. And this again is something debatable. Maybe you have some different thoughts on it, and if that's the case, well, make sure to text me and share them with me, because I definitely don't see it that way. And that's why I keep telling, it doesn't matter what other people think of you. And it's easier said than done, but for you to feel comfortable in yourself, for you to feel comfortable in your skin, the way to do that is through self acceptance. So like I said, the severity of acne can in fact have a huge, severe mental health impact. So like it's very important to understand ways in which we can have this conversation and make people understand that pointing out people's flaws is definitely not the best thing to do. So like I said, there is also a lot of stigma that is attached to having acne. And these are things like people assuming you're always dirty, or you're unclean, or you're unhygienic. And people also say a lot of really rude and mean things like you're gross, or you're disgusting, or you're dirty. And this really, really affects young people, especially children. They're affected by it. Come on, you're still a child, and you're so vulnerable. And the things that you hear as a child are definitely much more hurtful than the things you hear as an adult. And I'm not saying that, when you're an adult you can, you're not as sensitive as you are when you were a child or whatnot. That's absolutely not what I'm saying, but I'm saying that when you're a child it tends to have a bigger imprint on you than when people say things to you when you are much much older. So like I said, because you call people different things, because you say different things to people because of the acne, all they can think of when they think of their childhood is all the bullying and the trauma that they had to face because of their skin. And they themselves start seeing themselves as dirty or even unhygienic or even gross, because that's what people have been constantly telling them, right? And the truth of the matter is, when we say mean things to people, when we say rude things to people, we really don't think about how it's going to impact them. We just say it because what, it's fun, because I'm just going to have some fun and hurt someone else. But you don't really realize that when you do that, it actually affects a lot of people and it traumatizes them a lot, because when they're thinking about their childhood, they're never ever going to remember anything happy or good about it if they got traumatized and bullied the entire time. Right now, after years of, in fact, oppressive aesthetic perfection, acne positivity is, in fact, a drive for people to be much, much more open about their skin problems. And this is from the occasional spot to the full blown cystic acne. Now, it also joins these recent moves to celebrate the many and varied appearances of our skin, from vitiligo to freckles and even stretch marks. But it also is a way of educating people who still believe that acne is a problem for the unwashed and healthy. Now, that's what the acne positivity movement is about. For example, you'd remember how freckles used to be like a lot of people with freckles were very insecure because people always thought freckles were weird. And then suddenly last year, freckles became a TikTok trend. Everyone was like, oh, if you don't have real freckles, well, I'm just going to draw some real freckles. And, in a way, it's insulting for those people because that is something they were insecure about their whole life, and suddenly it's a fashion statement for you. So again, there's a lot of irony, there's a lot of hypocrisy when it comes to beauty, when it comes to these standards of beauty, these ideals of perfection and whatnot. Now, when it comes to the acne positivity movement, it's actually traced back to this British blogger called M. Ford, who, in fact, posted this YouTube video all the way back in 2015 called You Look Disgusting. And in that, it actually showed her in full makeup and barefaced with her acne visible. And along with that, she also showed a huge amount of comments that people had posted about her skin and about how she looked. So that's actually how the acne positivity movement came to be. Now, make sure you stay tuned because I still do have a lot more left to keep talking to you about acne positivity. But right now, we're actually going to head into a small break.
Again. But now, if you say to a child, if I went up to a child and said, you've had one to forget, God, there'd be an inquest. Me, why did you reject my son? Well, I haven't rejected your son.
I want to talk about, how the generation gap, has how much it's changed, especially when you check the youth nowadays in comparison, to people back in the day.
I'd say when I was younger, it was more disciplined. Not now.
In comparison to now.
Not at all. Not now. The way things are nowadays, the younger generation, you seem that they can't accept the word no. If that makes sense. They can't
accept rejection, essentially, is all you're trying to say.
Yeah, they can't accept the word no. So if you how did I do? Or you didn't do very well, and they get upset. And when I was a youngster, my father used to say to me, because I used to be sport mad when I was very young, well, I still am sport mad, but like participating in different sports. And if I had a bad game, for example, he might say to me, you had one to forget.
That's it. Your dad sounds like a smart guy. I mean, damn, that's the real fact of the matter, yeah.
He'd say to me, you had one to forget. Get over it. And that was it. So I'd dust myself down and do it again. But now, if you say to a child, if I went up to a child and said, you've had one to forget, God, there'd be an inquest. An inquest. Me. Why did you reject my son? Well, I haven't rejected your son. Or daughter. I've just told them that they need to buck their ideas up.
That's the truth right there. I mean, if you think about it, if you check the generations, like right now in the US as well, I've seen a lot of these things as well. In the UK, you get medals for participation. But what's the point? What are you trying to? Yeah, what's the point? Either you win or you lose. People are so afraid to put that whole notion of losing. When it comes to right now, the generation gap is just crazy. You know how much. A lot has changed. Social media has taken control of our lives, and we don't even realize it anymore. We're crippled because of it.
That's absolutely right, Nick. Because, as you said, nowadays it seems that you get rewarded for failure. For the life of me, Nick, I can't get my head around that. Perhaps I'm just getting old and morbid. I don't know. I just can't get my head around how you could be rewarded for failure.
Welcome back to the show. It's your girl Sarah right here on Relax Radio. Now you're tuned into the sunrise, and I will be keeping you company all the way until 9 a.m. And it is, in fact, the final few minutes of the first hour. But don't worry, because like I said, I will be here for 2 more hours, and I do have a lot of interesting things to be sharing with you. So make sure you stay tuned. But before we head back into a conversation about acne, the acne positivity movement, and all of that, I want to very quickly remind you that you can, in fact, go follow us on our socials, which is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Now, make sure you go follow them because you can always keep yourself updated and informed about everything that is happening all over the world, not just in the United Kingdom, but all over the world as well. And if you want to get in touch with me, well, the best way to do that is, in fact, to text me on 078 so you can be a part of this show. You can share your thoughts, your experiences, and even your opinions with me right here on the show. And don't forget to download our app, which is available on both the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. That way you can be a part of this conversation at any time of the day from anywhere in the world. So make sure you do that as well. But right now, let's actually get back into the conversation. We'll talk about why there is stigma about acne. Right now, obviously, we've all experienced or we've seen a lot of people being stigmatized, especially people with acne, right? So when it comes to all the stigma that is attached to acne, why do you think it exists? Because in my opinion, I think it exists because of the way that media portrays skin. And when I say media, I'm not just talking about movies or TV shows. I'm also talking about social media. I'm talking about fashion campaigns. I'm talking about about all these models who supposedly have beautiful skin with absolutely nothing wrong with it, no matter how many times and how many layers of makeup they wear, especially, for all these campaigns or these runways, catwalks, and whatnot. Okay. Now, in media, especially, skin is portrayed as this smooth, flawless, as it's smooth and flawless. And, if it has, if one of those, so say in a TV series you're watching, the all the women in the TV series and even all the men have absolutely no acne. And if you do have a character with acne, it's always a character who is poor, who has terrible hygiene, and who you think is very, very dirty. So media in fact plays a huge role in portraying and reinforcing this narrative that people with acne are in fact unhealthy and people with acne are in fact quite dirty, right? Which is not even the truth. Acne actually happens because of hormonal imbalances. And that's what we spoke about for the past few minutes. We spoke about it a lot. So when media in itself actually portrays people with acne as people who are unhealthy or clean or even unhygienic, then it sort of sets this negative precedent for everyone else who sees people with acne. Now, in early 2018, activists such as Free the Pimple, hashtag Free the Pimple founder Lou Northcote actually started building a movement online to destigmatize acne and to empower others to embrace the skin they're in. And they did this by showing unretouched makeup free photos of themselves that actually reveal their natural skin, encouraging others to do the same. Now, I've seen this a lot as well when I follow models, local models and whatnot. They do share a lot of pictures after the makeup, after the photo shoots and whatnot, where they have absolutely no makeup on their face. And on their faces, you can see that hyperpigmentation, you can see the dark circles, you can see the pimples, the scars, and you can even see acne. And that's very important because then they themselves are saying, look, even though we look perfect in photo shoots, even though we look perfect in these magazines and whatnot, we're not actually perfect. We do have a lot of imperfections. We do have a lot of things that are not as beautiful as the media portrays it. And I think that's very, very important because going forward, in terms of trying to have this conversation, in terms of trying to make sure that a lot of people are aware and they know what exactly real true skin is, that skin doesn't in fact have that skin in fact doesn't or isn't really perfect and flawless and smooth. When people are aware of that, then people will be more self-accepting of themselves. Now, celebrities too were in fact beginning to open up about their own struggles. Models who had, all of these models who a lot of people thought as untouchable, aspirational figures for so long, were actually speaking about their relatable skin troubles. And people like Justin Bieber, people like Kendall Jenner, if I'm not mistaken, they all started talking about the fact that we have pimples. It's normal. It happens to everyone. And then that stigma was finally being confronted. But while steps in the right direction were undoubtedly being made, there is in fact still a long way to go. Right? Even though people are more accepting, even though people are normalizing acne bit by bit, there is still so much more to go. And obviously, it starts again with the way that media portrays it, right? We can't keep pushing this narrative of women with perfect skin, men with perfect skin, people with perfect skin, because that genuinely doesn't exist. If it's not hormones, well, definitely when you're stepping out, because of all the pollution, because of all the dirt that's there in the air, you are going to get pimples. You're going to have some form of skin, you're going to have something happening with your skin. And especially because of the climate and everything that's changing, things are in fact going to be very, very different. So it's important that um the media themselves actually start analyzing this issue, and they start making sure that when they're portraying people, that they aren't like perfect people. Now, another thing is that beauty ideals are also deeply entrenched in both the industry and our wider culture. And perhaps all these brands out there, oh, the other thing is all these makeup brands out there as well, where they constantly sell products that are called blemish correcting, or clear skin or whatever, you've seen you and you know what I'm talking about as well, right? You see a lot of makeup brands out there that are like, oh, pimple correcting, blemish correcting, evening your skin color, making sure your skin color is even and whatnot. But the truth of the matter is, it's not that's not how real skin is. Real skin is uneven. Real skin has uneven skin tones. It has hyperpigmentation, it has acne, it has pimples, it has spots, it has scars, it has all of those things that people or even beauty ideals out there consider as terrible. Those are actually very, very natural and normal. And what's important is, even in this era of self-love and body positivity, regardless of how much of positivity there is, people still feel very embarrassed and insecure about their breakouts, right? And even despite advances in understanding the causes of acne, there are still lingering myths that it's about the lifestyle that you have, or your hygiene, or your diet, and therefore that it is somehow, in a way, self inflicted. So, to move forward, we need to start accepting ourselves. We need to start combating these unhealthy ideals that exist in terms of beauty and exist in terms of what kind of skin you should have. And this conversation for me has been very helpful as well. Even though I was just sharing my thoughts with you, it has definitely been helpful for me as well, because I've struggled with a lot of skin issues as well. And it definitely hasn't been acne, but I've definitely had to struggle with, pimples. I've had to struggle with dark circles, eye bags, because if I don't get if I don't sleep for more than 8 hours, I have dark circles. And these days, I haven't even been able to get sleep for more than 8 hours. And so, my eyes have just started getting darker and darker. And that has made me very insecure. But the whole point of this conversation is for us to finally start accepting ourselves, to start, telling ourselves that things like this, they're very, very normal. Things like this happen to everyone. So I hope that positivity helps you, and I hope that it will help not just you but your friends as well. Listen to them, talk about it with them, and make sure you help them as well. Now, make sure you stay tuned, because I will be back in a few minutes to actually talk about how the pandemic has actually been really good for relationships. So make sure you stay tuned.